In this video, we'll be going over the life, history, and resting place of the father of one of the most iconic rapper turned actors, Willard Carroll Smith. On March 27, 2022, his son, the Fresh Prince, Will Smith, forever changed his career. First, Smith walked on stage and slapped presenter and comedian Chris Rock after Rock joked about his wife Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head with a reference to the film G.I. Jane. Second, later on that same night, Will Smith was named Best Actor for King Richard and apologized to the Academy of the Motion Pictures and the nominees, but not to Rock. He would later apologize to Chris Rock on social media. The infamous slap took a life of its own as it circulated across television and the internet and became the most talked about event that overshadowed the Academy Award winners, performers, presenters, and Will Smith's winning moment itself. This video was not made to relive old wounds, but to be a cathartic process for Will Smith and Chris Rock. Chris Rock did an interview with CBS that he has been going through therapy, and we wish him all the best throughout his career and get through all the traumatic experience that he had throughout his life. The infamous Oscar moment had inspired people to buy Chris Rock's tickets and his sword, and for his comedy tour, and many people are anticipating to what he has to say. Unfortunately, Will Smith is currently being blackballed by the industry, and he has been banned for 10 years from the Oscar ceremony. Previously, he released his memoir, Will, on November 9, 2021, about his proudest and painful experiences with his father, Willard Carroll Smith, that perhaps may have manifested itself the day he changed his career at the Oscars. We encourage you, the audience, both to buy his book and his audiobook to get the full experience. We have the links of the book and the audio information into the description. We sample portions of the video in the appropriate order for this video. You will now hear from the author himself, Will Smith, describe his father's story.
My father was my hero. His name was Willard Carroll Smith, but we all called him Daddio. Daddio was born and raised in the rough and rugged streets of North Philadelphia in the 1940s. Daddio's father, my grandfather, owned a small fish market. He had to work from 4 a.m. until late at night every day. My grandmother was a nurse and often worked the night shift at the hospital. As a result, Daddio spent much of his childhood alone and unsupervised. Daddio was smoking cigarettes by 11 and drinking by age 14. My father developed a defiant and aggressive attitude that would continue all his life. When he was 14, my grandparents, fearing where his life was headed, scraped together what money they could and sent him to an agricultural boarding school in the Pennsylvania countryside, where kids learned farming techniques and basic handyman work. It was a strict and traditional place, and by sending him there, they hoped to introduce some much-needed structure and discipline into his life. Chapter 1, Fear. I've always thought of myself as a coward. Most of my memories of my childhood involve me being afraid in some way. Afraid of other kids, afraid of being hurt or embarrassed, afraid of being seen as weak. But mostly, I was afraid of my father. When I was 9 years old, I watched my father punch my mother in the side of her head so hard that she collapsed. I saw her spit blood. That moment in that bedroom, probably more than any other moment in my life, has defined who I am today. Within everything that I've done since then, the awards and accolades, the spotlights and the attention, the characters and the laughs, there's been a subtle string of apologies to my mother for my inaction that day, for failing her in that moment, for failing to stand up to my father, for being a coward. What you've come to understand as Will Smith, the alien annihilating MC, the bigger-than-life movie star, is largely a construction, a carefully crafted and honed character designed to protect myself, to hide myself from the world, to hide the coward. The wall. When I was 11 years old, my father decided he needed a new wall on the front of his shop. It would be a big wall, roughly 12 feet high by 20 feet long. The old wall was crumbling and he was sick of looking at it. But rather than hire a contractor or a construction company, he thought it would be a good project for my younger brother Harry and me. Daddio did the demolition. I remember looking at that gaping hole in excruciating disbelief. I was utterly certain that there would never be a wall there ever again. Every day for nearly a year, my brother and I would go to my father's shop after school to work on that wall. He made us do everything ourselves. We dug the footing, mixed the mortar, and carried the buckets. I still remember the formula: 2 parts cement, 1 part sand, 1 part lime. Harry was in charge of the hose. We'd mix the pile with the shovels out on the sidewalk and then fill 2-gallon buckets and lay our separate bricks. We did it without any rebar or wood forms, just one of those levels with the little water bubble in the middle. If you know anything about construction, you know this is a loony-ass way to do this. If we keep it real, this is chain gang kind of labor. Today, we would just call Child Protective Services. This is a job so tedious and unnecessarily long that what ended up taking 2 kids most of a year would have only taken a team of grown men a couple of days at most. My brother and I worked weekends, holidays, vacations. We worked through the summer that year. It didn't matter. My father never took a day off, so neither could we. There were so many times I remember looking at that hole, totally discouraged. I couldn't see how this was ever going to end. The dimensions became unfathomably large in my mind. It seemed like we were building the Great Wall of West Philly, billions of red bricks stretching infinitely into some distant nowhere. I was certain that I would grow old and die still mixing concrete and carrying those buckets. But Daddio wouldn't let us stop. Every day we had to be there, mixing concrete, carrying buckets, laying bricks. It didn't matter if it was raining, if it was hot as hell, if I was mad, if I was sad, if I was sick, if I had a test the next day. There were no excuses. My brother and I tried to complain and protest, but it made no difference to Daddio. We were trapped. This wall was a constant. It was permanence. Seasons changed, friends came and went, teachers retired, but the wall remained. Always the wall remained. One day, Harry and I were in a particularly stank mood. We were dragging our feet and grumbling, impossible this and ridiculous that. Why we have to build a wall for anyway? This is impossible. It's never gonna get done. Daddio overheard us, threw down his tools, and marched over to where we were yapping. He snatched a brick out of my hand and held it up in front of us. "Stop thinking about the damn wall," he said. "There is no wall. There are only bricks. Your job is to lay this brick perfectly, then move on to the next brick, then lay that brick perfectly, then the next one. Don't be worrying about no wall. Your only concern is one brick." He walked back in the shop. Me and Harry just looked at each other, shook our heads. Old boy is a kook. We just went back to mixing. Some of the most impactful lessons I've ever received, I've had to learn in spite of myself. I resisted them, I denied them, but ultimately the weight of their truth became unavoidable. My father's brick wall was one of those lessons. The days dragged on, and as much as I hated to admit it, I started to see what he was talking about. When I focused on the wall, the job felt impossible, never ending. But when I focused on one brick, everything got easy. I knew I could lay one damn brick well. As the weeks passed, the bricks mounted, and the hole got just a little bit smaller. I started to see that the difference between a task that feels impossible and a task that feels doable is merely a matter of perspective. Are you paying attention to the wall, or are you paying attention to the brick? Whether it was acing the tests to get accepted into college, hitting it big as one of the first global hip-hop artists, or constructing one of the most successful careers in Hollywood history. In all cases, what appeared to be impossibly large goals could be broken down into individually manageable tasks. Insurmountable walls comprised of a series of conceivably layable bricks. For my entire career, I have been absolutely relentless. I've been committed to a work ethic of uncompromising intensity. And the secret to my success is as boring as it is unsurprising. You show up and you lay another brick. Pissed off, lay another brick. Bad opening weekend, lay another brick. Album sales dropping, get up and lay another brick. Marriage failing, lay another brick. Over the past 30 years, like all of us, I've dealt with failure, loss, humiliation, divorce, and death. I've had my life threatened, my money taken away, my privacy invaded, my family disintegrated. And every single day, still, I got up, mixed concrete, and laid another brick. No matter what you're going through, there is always another brick sitting right there in front of you, waiting to be laid. The only question is, are you going to get up and lay it? I've heard people say that a child's personality is influenced by the meaning of their name. Well, my father gave me my name. He gave me his name. And he gave me my greatest advantage in life, my ability to weather adversity. He gave me will.
Here is a video of Will Smith's father making a cameo appearance on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, first season, episode 13, Knowledge is Power.
Bike not fast enough to keep up with Volvo. Here at Tony's dorm room to determine where suspects are going shopping. Let's see what happens.
Now we'll be showing you the resting place of Daddio, Willard Carroll Smith. He is buried very close to the entrance of the cemetery on the left-hand side.
It was a cold, overcast day, nearly a year after my brother and I had begun. By that time, the wall had become such a fixture in my life that thoughts of finishing it felt like delusions. Like, if we ever did finish, there would tragically be another hole right behind it that immediately needed to be filled. But on that frigid September morning, we mixed the final pile, filled the final bucket, and laid the final brick. Daddio had been standing there watching the last few bricks being set into place. Cigarette in hand, he stood quietly admiring our work. Harry and I set and leveled the final brick. Then silence. Harry kind of shrugged. What now? Do we jump? Do we cheer? Do we celebrate? We gingerly stepped back and stood on each side of Daddio. The three of us surveyed our family's new wall. Daddio plucked his cigarette to the ground, twisting his boot to put it out, exhaled the final drag of smoke, and never taking his eyes off the wall, he said, "Now don't you boys ever tell me there's something you can't do. Then he walked into the shop and got back to work.
Willard Carroll Smith Sr. was a refrigeration engineer and a U.S. Air Force veteran who lived in West Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In addition to his famous son, Willard Carroll Smith II, he and other 3 children, Pamela and twins, Harry and Ellen, all of whom survived him. He is also survived by Smith II's 3 children, Will Trey III, Jaden, and Willow.
Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out more of our content. Feel free to give your feedback and suggestions on who we should do next in the comments. This is Infinitely Productions. We love ya!